All right, from the muddy banks of the North Saskatchewan River, this is your host, Jack Antonio, for Do You Know Jack, the podcast. And with me on the line today is a man that I have been wanting to chat with for quite some time. I'm talking to legendary rocker Joe Bouchard, who has just released
Hello.
a brilliant solo record, and he's here to talk with us today. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing excellent. Great to talk to you up there in the wilds of Canada.
That's right.
My background is Canadian.
It is. Oh, do tell.
Well, Bouchards, they came over from France and settled in Montreal and Ottawa.
Right.
And then my ancestors crossed the river. Probably was frozen at the time. Crossed the river and became Americans, but a lot of roots up there in Canada. I know what it's like. Been up there a lot.
Right on. Yeah, this is they call this area up here northern Saskatchewan, but I mean, really compared to where I used to live, which was in the Northwest Territories, this really is not northern at all. It feels tropical comparatively.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, anyway, man, enough of this chit chat, eh? I mean, let's get down to business. You're in the process of getting ready to release your sixth solo record, Strange Legends, of which I have had the pleasure of listening to over the last couple of days. The production quality on this seems quite sublime. This go around, Joe.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed making this record. I mean, it took about 2 years.
That's right.
I really enjoy the process, and this is the more I do it, the better I get, I think, so and I like the songs, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, now this kind of has that kind of bit of a, swagger to it, similar to your previous releases, and, a touch of more like blues rock with maybe a little bit more emphasis on blues.
Yeah, that's possible. I'm trying to make my guitar speak a little bit more, come up with some better melodies, better sounds. But I have a very very heavy legacy to follow.
That's right.
Being in a famous band is gives you a lot of responsibility, but it's actually a tremendous advantage, because I have the advantage of working with a lot of great producers before I went out on my own.
Right.
I mean, our manager, Sandy Perlman, great producer. They're all different, Tom Werman, who did Cheap Trick, and a lot of other bands, Motley Crue, did a bunch of Motley Crue albums. And one of my favorites was Martin Birch, who did Deep Purple. So we made 2 albums with him, and they're fantastic. So
yeah, I know.
Bruce Fairburn, Bruce Fairburn,
right?
Did Loverboy, Canadian band, which we toured with a lot. And so the experience with all those different producers really, really helped, where I'm at now.
Yeah, well, now the press release mentions Mickey Curry. I mean, was he kind of helping you behind the production board as well a little bit?
He just came in, and I used to, on most of my other albums, except for the first one. The first one had Michael Cardelloni from Lynyrd Skynyrd, excellent drummer. And then after that, I sort of got into the habit of programming, doing, computer programs. The sounds are great. You can get great sounds, and I can really hone in on the feel that I want. But I tell you, there's nothing like having the real thing there. And Mickey delivers on all levels. of course, he's known for playing with Bryan Adams, but he also played with Alice Cooper, Cher, The Cult, a great sounding album he did with them called Sonic Temple.
Right.
Yeah, great sounding albums. And before that, he worked with Hall & Oates back in the early days. It's got a great feel. So, and he happens to live near me.
Oh, well, that's always a plus.
He lives in the next town over. And I met his brother at an open mic. His brother plays the flute like Jethro Tull.
Oh, nice.
And I said to Todd, you know, do you think your brother would want to play on one of my albums? And he said, yeah, call him up. I'll set it up. So it was really smooth, you know. I had him over the house. I played him the songs. And, you know, then I gave him some demos. And he went home, took a lot of notes, knew exactly what he wanted to do. And then we did basically two sections. So I got all the drums done. I mean, this guy has worked with the best producers in the world. And, you know, he knocks it out. I mean, he's just so good. So that makes me as a producer, a lot easier for me as a producer because I can just go in there and play the bass. And I played, you know, 98% of all the other instruments on the album. My girlfriend plays guitar on one of the songs. She just had a good touch for the rhythm. And she does a couple of harmonies, but everything else is me. I get to do keyboards. I get to do guitar, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, mandolin, trumpet. I actually did some trumpet on this album.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you played.
Well, I was always the worst trumpet player in high school.
That makes two of us.
You know, the guy that sits down at the end, and there were some good trumpet players good in my high school. And so, you know, I went to college as a piano major, studied piano in college.
Right.
Did a little bit of guitar. And, but a couple of years ago when I cut back on some of the other activities that I was doing, I decided, well, I think I should buy a cornet. What that's all about, you know. And so I bought a cornet, and it was like this antique, but it sounded great. And I joined a brass band, the local brass band, all people who are retired. I'm having a great time. Then I bought a real trumpet, and then I just bought a cornet, another cornet that was owned the guy who plays in the E Street Band. I got his cornet because he bought a different one. Yeah, so it's got some vibe to it, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like 10th Avenue Freeze Out. I'm ready to go.
Well, now you know.
But, you know,
you were talking a little bit about Mickey. I mean, did he first drop on your radar back when he was playing with Alice? You know, how did that relationship start?
Well, I'm trying to think. There was a thing a couple of maybe a year or two ago, before I really zeroed in on Mickey.
Yeah,
I was listening to actually it was an article on a website of that Bryan Adams did about how he wrote Run to You was written for Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, really? Wow.
It was he wrote this song Run to You because it has that sort of arpeggiated guitar part. And who's the guy that Bryan collaborates with? His name escapes me. But he told the whole story, how they gave the song to Bruce Fairbairn. Bruce Fairbairn was producing Blue Oyster Cult at the time. And I never heard the song. Maybe our management said, no, you know, this isn't right for you. It's too pop or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I started listening to the song, and I started practicing it. And like, wow, this is a really great song. Run to You, you know. It could have been the third hit of Blue Oyster Cult. Who knows? But you know, those all kinds of things happen when those situations come up. So I was listening to it and I was saying, wow, this is great. And the drum part is just great on this, you know. So then I said, oh, Mickey Curry, you know, I wonder if he's available, you know. And little did I know, I'd run into his brother, and then he was really available, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
He loves playing, you know, playing with different people. I mean, he's been really busy with Brian. They are all over the world. I mean, huge and Far East, and you know, it's a constant thing. And he comes up with great stuff all the time. So Mickey has a really full-time job there. But he did slip me in, and I'm very happy the way the drums sound on this. I mean, the two that, you know, there's a single coming out this Friday called "She's a Legend," and the first single came out a few weeks back called "Forget About Love," and "Forget About Love" really needed those live drums because Mickey has a shuffle that is just unbelievable. You know, that feel. So. So that, yeah. So he plays on every cut on this album. So
I was thinking now, "Strangely in Love" is a nice acoustic track. What can you tell us about that one, Joe?
Oh, that one was written by my next door neighbor that I grew up with up in the Thousand Islands on the St. Lawrence River. I mean, I've known this guy since he was, you know, since I was a baby, basically. He was our next door neighbor, and he became sort of a folk blues guitarist and collected guitars. And then he started becoming a really great songwriter. And I've had his songs on my solo albums. His name is
sorry, I didn't. You cut out right when you were saying his name.
Yeah. His name was John Elwood Cook.
Okay.
In fact, his father was Canadian. Came over from Canada and settled in the Thousand Islands, which is, you know, part of the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
So he played me this song, "Forget About Love," and I said, wow, I've got to record that. But there's so many others. He wrote a song called "Dark Boat." He writes a lot of songs that are about the river where he lived his whole life. Unfortunately, he passed away last year.
Oh my! I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, before he did, he gave me a lot of songs, and "Strangely in Love" was on a CD that he burned for me. He burned me a CD, and I heard it, and I said, I've got to do this song. It's really a great song. So I'm hoping to get that out as a single sometime. But I'm glad you brought that up because it's a very, you know, personal, romantic song. Most of the songs are pretty hard rock on this album, but "Strangely in Love" does stand out because it's just so emotional. So yeah.
Now,
and it's the story of going on the river. You know, the last ride of the day before the sunset. So.
Yeah, I mean, living near the North Saskatchewan, I definitely enjoy songs about the river. In fact, I have a radio show that I do under a different name called "Down to the River," so I might even just use that clip when I get back on the air, starting up in the fall.
Please do. And you should check out that song "Dark Boat." And then I had another one I really loved called "Midnight in a River Town." That was good. And then I'll give you the whole list. What was the other one that he wrote about? My brother broke up with his girlfriend and disappeared for a week. But John was really talented writer. He's I'm certainly going to dig into the archive for more inspiration, because he was that kind of guy,
Yeah. For sure. Now, you also, for this record, co-wrote some songs with John Shirley?
Yes. This is a lot of fun. John sent me an email, and I guess he heard one of my other solo albums, and he said, I really like your album, and I'm a fan. And I said, oh, cool. So I wrote him right back, and I said, by the way, send me some lyrics. So the next day, he's, because he writes, he's a famous science fiction writer. He writes like novels and science fiction novels. And he wrote the screenplay for The Crow. And he also writes lyrics for Blue Oyster Cult, the current Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah.
And I went through the catalog, and I said, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here, So he sent me, the next day, She's a Legend and Bottom for the Bottomless, really great lyrics. He sings in a band. He has his own band, and they put out strange recordings. They're all good.
Yeah.
But somebody that brings to the table a really wide, imagination,
Yeah.
And I'm sure that I'm going to do more with John. There's 17 tracks for this album, and only 11 are on there. So there's 6 more tracks that are really good. So I'm sure they will show up sometime in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now, at the beginning, you mentioned producers that you'd work with, like, Martin Birch, for instance. I mean, just
Yes.
thinking about your production approach, with special emphasis on this record. I mean, what have you learned from guys like Martin that you carried forward to modern, digital times, I suppose?
Well, when I'm singing, I can't be that, I don't have the perspective that an outside producer would have. So I'm singing the thing, and then I got to put on a different hat and start arguing with myself. Did you sing it? What would Martin say? Martin would say, go out there and sing it again. No, it's not right,
Yeah.
But he was very sort of laid back as a producer. He was not a big hands-on type of guy. He would let us flounder in the studio. We did, it just doesn't sound right. It's not good. And he says, oh, you just go out there and work on it, and I'll tell you when it's right. And that's what he would do. We would work on something, and change a little thing or something. And he says, that's it. Don't change anything. Let's record it just like that.
Yeah.
And because he was a engineer producer too. So he was like, I never had a guy that was more one with the mixer than Martin Birch. And you know that he probably did that same thing with Deep Purple, because he gets a lot of power out of those guys,
Yeah.
And so that's what we were looking for, and he really delivered. An interesting record, he was also working with Black Sabbath at the same time. So, so I often try to give myself some perspective as a self-produced artist. Well, what would this producer say or that producer say? Maybe you just need to take a break and come back to it later. And but it's all about the feeling. If you get the feeling across and it just jumps off the recording, then you've got something. But it's not easy to do. I'm sure other people who've tried self-production and, thought it was great at the time, but then it didn't stand up over time. So you have to try to force yourself into wearing 2 hats, the artist on one side and the producer on the other side.
I think that's the
So,
biggest
but
challenge to being self-produced, right? Is being able to separate yourself as the artist from yourself as a producer and know when things need to be trimmed down and snipped and know when to be, harsh on
right,
yourself.
yes, yes. I mean, I do a lot of listening in the car. I think the car test is the best way to figure out, where your mixes are at. So
Yeah.
you think you've got it in the studio, then you take it out to the car, and the truth comes in. The truth reveals itself.
It's funny that you
So
would bring that up because I have a friend that insists every time they self produce something that they take it into the car or even just take it and play it on a wide variety of things like their surround sound
yeah,
system and
yeah,
and if the mix holds up and across all of those different things, then they know they've done it right.
yeah. I listen on my iPad a lot. There's really no bass on an iPad, but it sort of helps, and work on sequencing, trying to get the right order of songs,
Yeah.
and yeah, but it's fun. I'm having a great time. I really, really enjoy, having the tools to do it. Number one, I mean, if you do any recording at home, you know that things have gotten so much better. I mean, the first round of digital was not great compared to analog, but they've continued making little, improvements here and there, and software gets better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a learning curve. You gotta spend the time. I watch a lot of YouTube videos on like how to set up your compressor and all of that geeky stuff. But I guess, I kind of like the technical, so, but it could be really frustrating for a lot of people. So, but this was a lot of fun to do. Like I said, I'm getting better at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's all good.
Now, I'm assuming when you mentioned Martin, you're sort of thinking to the Cultasaurus Erectus era, which maybe about a
Yes,
month ago turned 40 years old.
unbelievable.
Not to make you feel old, Joe, but there it is.
I feel great. That's so great. I'm amazed. I've been talking to a lot of people over the last couple of weeks because I'm promoting this album,
Right.
and the depth of feeling for our original recordings is stunning. I mean, when I joined the band in 1970, I thought, well, if this thing lasts 3 years, I'll be happy. If this thing lasts 3 years, if we get an album out and it lasts for 3 years, that'll be a win. But here it is. We're talking 40, better than 40 years, on, and people are still talking about those recordings and those songs. I get emails all the time. This song is so great, and I'm thinking, I can barely remember it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and when you're young like that and you're working really fast because you have so much going on, you're touring, you're writing songs, it doesn't feel like work at all. It's just a lot of fun,
Yeah.
So I'm happy. Talk to all you people about the old recordings because it amazes me the longevity of the catalog.
Yeah. Well,
Beautiful.
I mean, just thinking about that one record, for instance, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, right? I mean, Eric was writing with Michael Moorcock, talking about, co-writing with sci-fi writers.
Fantastic song, yeah.
That's the song Black Blade, of course.
Black Blade's great song. That was an epic song that we did that in 3 sections. It was an all day tracking session.
Uh-huh.
And we started in the morning, did the first section, did the afternoon section. Then at night we did the final section. So when I listen to that, I hear those different stages of the production. And yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. That was a lot of fun to do.
Of course, your writing credit and singing credit is Fallen Angel.
Yes, that was a last minute thing. I didn't expect it to even get on the album, but Martin said, "I like this," and he kept making it heavier. It was kind of a lightweight, kind of poppy kind of song, and then it definitely transformed in the studio to be a more upbeat hard rock song. And the vocal, man, what he was really pumping me up to get that vocal.
You're up in your upper register on that one.
Upper register a lot. It's up to a B, high B.
Wow.
Which is, it's up there. And but we took it line by line. He kept telling me, well, I was in the studio with Roger Daltrey, and they did it this way. How good is that?
It's hard to argue.
So I said, okay, hard to argue with that. Yeah.
Well, now, was Martin the connection that ended up getting you on that co-headlining tour with Sabbath?
Somewhat. Actually, I guess they approached Sandy Pullman to be their manager. And this is after, Ozzy had been given the boot.
Yes.
By the other guys. And they brought in Ronnie Dio. I don't think Ronnie knew Sandy, but he definitely knew Blue Oyster Cult. I knew Ronnie Dio when it was Ronnie Dio and the Prophets.
Wow.
From upstate New York. Yeah, I mean, when I was way in high school, they used to play gigs up in Watertown, New York. And then I went to Ithaca College, and they were always there at Ithaca. And they were, Ronnie Dio, the Prophets, and then they became Electric Elves. Then they became Elf. And then there was Rainbow. Ronnie always had that voice.
Yeah.
Perfect hard rock voice. He could sing anything, but he really was that great singer. But so I think it was a combination of Martin and Sandy Perlman and Ronnie Dio probably said, let's try it, And we were out on the biggest tour of the year. It was huge. It was like, what would you say? It would be like kind of like a Taylor Swift tour today.
Yeah.
Stadiums and arenas and stadiums every other night. So it's huge.
Now,
it's fun.
If I think of that Heaven and Hell record, which is the record they would have been putting forth during that time, I mean, there's a lot of really experimental stuff, and in particular, Tony, whose guitar playing at times sounds really jazzy. I mean, how was it? Just did you guys get to watch Sabbath side stage, or were you pretty much you played your set?
Yeah. Yeah, I watched a lot of Sabbath shows. They were loud, though. They were loud. It was hard to handle. It was so loud. I watched a lot of them. And then after the tour got going, I didn't see so many. More at the beginning of the tour than towards the end, because it was pretty exhausting too. So
yeah.
If you were, sometimes we closed the show, but we didn't mind when they closed the show, because then we could go back to our hotel and sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a couple of riots.
Well, I was just thinking that now. There was a riot in October of 1980. I mean, were you guys already long gone when that went down?
Oh, yeah. I went back to my hotel. We had played our set, done. This was in Milwaukee.
Right.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it was a nice theater. Everything went smooth for us. So I decide I'm going to head back to the hotel, and I'm watching the Johnny Carson show, some late night TV, and I hear a siren. You hear any big city, you're going to hear a siren. And then I start hearing 2 sirens. Then I hear 5 sirens, and then I hear 40 sirens. I says, "Holy crap! What's going on?" And the next thing you know, our road crew had finished packing up. They'd come back and say, there was a riot. somebody threw a bottle on stage, and so Sabbath refused to play, and then everything just went. They just tore up all the seats, and it was a mess. I don't think anybody really got seriously hurt, thank God. But we were banned. We were banned from Milwaukee. I think we're still banned from Milwaukee.
Wow.
We're still banned and we had nothing to do with it. We weren't even in the building. But of course, they said, okay, Blue Oyster Cult and Black Sabbath, they're banned. So.
Did you guys end up having a big team meeting the next day? Like, did you have to decompress?
No, actually, most likely we just went right on to the next show, and there was like no time between gigs. It was a pretty extensive tour. You hope that that everything goes smoothly and safely when you're on tour, but bumps in the road do happen. That was certainly a big bump on that tour, but
no doubt.
But we just kept going. No, we just kept going. I don't remember any scolding from management.
Yeah.
Okay, boys, you got to behave yourself from now on.
I'm just looking at a blog here that, I mean, it's on some random website, but it's postulating perhaps that part of the issue was the long wait between changeover of the band, and that you guys maybe overplayed your set a little bit.
No, we always played exactly what we should play.
Yeah.
There was a long delay between sets, but that wasn't our fault. It's been talked about a lot. I'm sure rumors fly this way and that way. Like I said,
fair. Glad
nobody got hurt, and maybe someday I'll get to play in Milwaukee again.
Well, listen, man, of course, the record, your solo record, comes out July 31st. It's called Strange Legends.
Legends.
You're obviously doing the press junket pretty hardcore, but I mean, what's coming up here, next in the near future?
Well, I hope we have some gigs. We are looking into the idea of the drive-in concerts. I don't think it'll never be the same. In a drive-in as opposed to a really packed arena. I miss that a lot. You know what I really miss is when everybody sings along. They're all singing along to your song. Like, wow, that is so cool. Last summer I got to do a big festival in Sweden. The Sweden Rock Festival. It was amazing. Best show I've ever played, and we made a video out of it. There's a full video of Sweden Rock on my YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
And it really came out great sound, great. And we had a Swedish film team that filmed the whole thing. It was great. We were supposed to go back this summer, but it was a cruise. We were headlining a cruise. This is with my band Blue Coupe. And of course the cruise didn't happen. Not a good time to be on a cruise boat. A lot of bad press about cruises. So right now we're just holding up. I mean, normally if an album was coming out, I'd be out there playing as many gigs as I could. But it's going to be a while, But I'm settled here at home. I built a little video studio in my house here, and I've got a couple of videos coming out. My brother and I, we did a bunch of charity videos that we sent we sent 7 videos to France. We sent one to Long Island. We sent one to Connecticut. And so we'll be doing more of that too, where we collaborate virtually at home and just bring the tapes together edit it all down. And it's at least one thing you can do to communicate to the fans, about what you're doing and what your new music. But it's not like playing for the big crowds where everybody's got their fists in the air and they're jumping up and down and they're dancing in the aisles and they're singing the songs. It's a miraculous feeling when that happens. So
I've noticed now that, there was initially at the beginning of the pandemic when people started to go into lockdown and that self-isolation and whatnot, that a lot of artists were kind of doing things over social media, quote unquote, for free.
Yeah.
I mean, but now I'm seeing artists now that venues are starting to open up, but not be able to, house the same amount of people that artists now are starting to go into venues, and some are charging. I mean, do you think it's a huge regret for the industry, the live music industry right now, that maybe musicians didn't start that charging for those virtual gigs right away, or does it matter?
Yeah, I don't, I'm lucky because, I have a long catalog and the old catalog is doing really great, in the world. And it's not a thing where I'm desperate to make every dollar count. But no, I thought it was good. I enjoy doing things for charities and stuff like that. For a long time, the band I was with didn't want to do any of that. And I kind of regret it because it really makes you feel part of the community because you're giving back,
Right.
But we'll see. We'll see how things develop, It'll be a while, and I'm sort of resigned to that, If all I can do is record and make videos at home, it's okay too, It's all right,
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, with your back catalog, I mean, I know this song wasn't written by you, but you certainly played on it. I mean, even my kids know the song Godzilla.
Oh, Godzilla. Yeah. And they finally used it in a Godzilla movie. How good was that? we tried for 30 years. Every time a Godzilla movie would come out, somebody'd make the call to the producers, hey, you got to use our song. And they never used it. They used Puff Daddy, but they didn't use Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, goodness.
What?
and of course, Guitar Hero treated your brother really well with Cities, with Cities on Flames.
Oh, Cities on Flames. That's true.
Yeah, being out there.
I mean, all of the catalog, it's great. The Saturday Night Live skit with more cowbell changed the whole trajectory of, how people see our music,
Yeah.
And once they got hooked into like, well, what's this Reaper song? Then the next thing you know, they're looking at, hey, what's this Black Blade song?
Yeah.
It's great. So, we tried to put, the best quality we could into our recordings, and come up with some smart songs,
Sure.
But so there's a lot for people to explore if they want to take the time. Unfortunately, our keyboard player Alan passed away, but the rest of us are all very creative and doing stuff. My brother is going to we started our own record label.
That's right.
Rock Heart Records. And my album is the first album out on Rock Heart Records. And my brother's solo album, which is going to be really fabulous, will be out in October, and that'll be on our new label too. So, and then after that, we've got a couple more projects planned. So it's all good. Things are going just really great at the moment. So knock on wood.
Well, that's good to hear,
Or
Joe.
whatever they say up there. Yeah.
I think knock on wood is universal.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I don't want to keep you much longer, but I certainly do appreciate your time here on Do You Know Jack, the podcast, man. It's been amazing to chat with you, and I'm glad we were able to connect after, so many years of us kind of maybe talking about it. We finally got her done.
Well, it was great talking to you. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Definitely count on it, man. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.